Hey there, in this edition of Quick Hits, we're just be going around the NBA. I'm just going to go down the standings and go over each team here as the updated standings as of Thanksgiving morning. I'm filming this on Thanksgiving. Um, let's get to the standings here. We got the Boston Celtics in first place, 14-4, of course, led by Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Joe Mazzulla has been doing a great job. Kind of guiding this team through all the turmoil and stuff like that. And this offense has been clicking. Obviously, they've been working on through the offseason. Really shooting the ball really, really well. Woj gave great news for Boston Celtics fans, for myself. Robert Williams will be returning by Christmas, which is a much needed boost to our defense that has been the only question mark for the Celtics this season. That's awesome. Moving on to the Milwaukee Bucks, basically who have been playing a 90s styles type of basketball, being great defensively and being dog shit on the offensive side of the ball. Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis have stepped up. Drew Holiday's playing well. Javon Carter's had moments, but their half-court offense has just been crappy. Giannis has been, of course, being a production machine there in Milwaukee as always. They're just waiting for, it's kind of just a holding pattern until Chris Middleton's back, until we can really evaluate this team with their best playmaker, best creator off the dribble, shooting the ball, pick and roll situations. But kudos to Brook Lopez playing well. He has a bounce back season from last year where he battled injury and kind of struggled with his shot coming back. But this year you can see his impact, especially on the defensive end with Giannis, and really spreading the floor and able to knock down the shot. I'm not concerned about Milwaukee going forward. It's just if they can stay healthy, and what's Chris Middleton, what's he going to look like when he gets back? Moving on to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I thought was going to be a sleeper team. They struggled over the past week or whatever the case may be. They won 4 in a row, though. But I think Donovan Mitchell missed some time. I think Jared Allen was out for a time. So it's just a wonder if this team can stay healthy. But you have 2 active bigs on both sides of the ball. Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland just able to score like that. You're just wondering what else can they get from the rest of this team. A Ricky Rubio sighting at some point. When is he able to come back and help this team in the playmaking situation as a backup point guard? Cleveland, again, is just all set going forward, in my opinion. I think they're a really good team, and it's just a question of where they're going to finish in the Eastern Conference. They're third right now, which is if you told people last year, a couple of years ago, if this is where Cleveland would be after LeBron, after Kyrie, et cetera, you would be lying. But Kevin Love also playing great as a sixth man, as a veteran for this team. He's been playing great as a reclamation project where he was untradeable at one point in time, and to basically work his way back and be credible and be a productive member of this team, be in the sixth man of the year conversation. He's playing well for them. Kudos to him. Being a professional, staying ready for that team, and really helping Cleveland win games. Moving on to the Atlanta Hawks. A lot of uncertainty with John Collins, who they have reportedly put on the trade block. Utah, Phoenix, I think Miami, Chicago, various teams are interested. It's just whatever production John Collins is going to be able to bring. He's not great defensively. Obviously, an offensive player, kind of in that Christian Wood type mold type player. And it's weird because they just signed him to a contract. So it's weird for Atlanta, but that backcourt of Trae Young and Javonte Murray is picking up. Trae Young is trying to get back to his efficiency a little bit up there. But in terms of what this backcourt is, I think they're playing really, really well together. They complement each other a little. They complement each other really well. Clint Capella's getting back to his double-double self. DeAndre Hunter, the only question is DeAndre Hunter's had a couple injuries, I think, but he's playing well. But Donovich has been out all season, and that's really been hurting them shooting-wise, three-point-wise, spreading the floor-wise. And I think that's probably why they're looking to trade John Collins, where they're like, hey, we can rely on Okonkwo, rely on Clint Capella to carry the front line, and see if we can space the floor and get some more shooting there. Looking to trade John Collins because Bogdanovich is out. That's what I'm thinking. And it was just a weird fit anyway. with John Collins and that whole contract situation. Maybe they're just looking to flip him to get more spare parts and get more production for their team. We'll see how that goes for the Atlanta Hawks. But at 11-7, they're playing well right now. We'll see how that continues in Indiana. You know how I feel about them. I talked about them earlier in the other quick hits with the Kings and Pacers video. I really love what they're doing, the pace they're playing, how Halliburton is playing and leading that team, getting Hield involved, Miles Turner, Benedict Mathurin off the bench. They're just playing well. Rick Carlisle absolutely refusing to let them tank. And I think Indiana's in that situation where they're like, hey, we'll get some playoff games if we get to the playoffs. They're always a team that wants to make the playoffs, a small market team that wants to make the playoffs. So we'll see how they're going. The Washington Wizards at 10-8, which is weird because Bradley Beal is hurt. I can't really tell you they're having great performances from Kyle Kuzma. Porzingis has even shown a pulse and been steady so far to start the season. So that's really good for them. I don't know what direction they're going to go. We'll see what they do. I always said for years that Bradley Beal should have been out of there so the Wizards can really start their rebuild. But it's like they work so hard to get out of that rebuild with John Wall and Bradley Beal, the famous Otto Porter matching contract from the Kings and I think the Nets. I can't remember. But they fought so hard to get out of that rebuilding situation to now potentially go back into that. I think they're hesitant to do that. They're going to keep on to Bradley Beal and push with Porzingis and see what this team can do going forward. The New York Knicks, what is there to say about them? They're just mid. Jalen Brunson has been a plus for them, I think. But in terms of overall what the team is, what Tibbs is doing, what his rotations, who's playing, who's out, it's really a weird situation. They're just mid. I think they were like middle of the road offensively, middle of the road defensively, giving up the same amount of points per possession as they're getting and stuff like that. The Knicks are just mid until whatever the Knicks decide to make a plunge to get a star there or take a step backwards and start another rebuild, which Knicks fans do not want. So we'll see what direction they're going to go in. The Toronto Raptors at 9-9, their defense is real steady. It's just a mixture of their offense. Their half-court offense has not been the best. Pascal Siakam has been out, and they're just waiting to see if Scottie Barnes can take that next leap. And it has been kind of in that sophomore slump a little bit, I guess. People were just so high on him and just expecting him to continue this to ascend, but he's plateaued so far to start the season. Fred VanVleet is a nice project. They're trying to get Gary Trent Jr. To be a defensive disruptor, I read somewhere. And it's like, that's not really in his calling card, but we'll see how that goes with Toronto. Overall, they have a good team. They have a good foundation there. It's just staying healthy. If they can stay healthy and if they can get that offense going, maybe actually a true point guard that can create some playmaking and get some easier buckets and get guys in situations. Maybe that's an avenue they're going to have to explore at some point. I don't know if they're going to do that. They have Fred VanVleet. They have another guard there. I can't remember his name, but we'll see what Toronto does going forward. Philadelphia, what is there to say about Philadelphia? If they're healthy, they're going to be a top seed in the East. I had them number one in the conference, but it's looking real shaky right now. But Joel Embiid hurt. Tyrese Maxey hurt. James Harden hurt. I don't even know when James Harden's supposed to come back, but we'll see if Doc Rivers can get some confidence out those young guys, those other guys out there, and see if this is a chance to boost Tobias Harris trade value, or see if he can be a guy that can be relied on going forward alongside James Harden and Joel Embiid. We'll see what that does. But I think this is a good – I think certain injuries help a team get other guys more touches and see what they can do offensively, see how they can play, and see what role they can fit in with the team. It's just when those stars come back, has that work for them? I don't know, but Philadelphia, we'll see what happens if they get healthy. The Brooklyn Nets, I'm tired about talking about the Brooklyn Nets. They are what they are until they figure out what they're doing defensively. Kevin Durant has been a monster this season. I think that was the first game. I think he had 20 against Philly, and that was the first game under 26 he scored on the season. So to see him just be, I think he passed Kevin Garnett on the all-time scoring list as well. To see Kevin Durant basically lead that team and kind of shit on them last week. The other guys there, the reserves there for the Nets. But we'll see what happens going forward, They've been a soap opera all summer, all season, basically, and we'll see if it continues. Moving on to Chicago Bulls, their point guard situation has been difficult. Lonzo Ball, there's no timetable on his return, which is unfortunate because I really like the progression that Lonzo showed with the Pelicans a couple of years ago and with Chicago last year. Unfortunately, he's hurt. They have no timetable. He's been out since January, and it's going to be over a year before he comes back. Hopefully, he's able to come back and play well for Chicago. It's unfortunate because he and Caruso in that backcourt creating havoc on the defensive end was really the calling card of that team last year that had them in first place last year, along, of course, with DeRozan playing crazy offensively. But to see them struggle, see Zach LaVine struggle off a knee injury after just signing that max contract, I think it's $215 million, and basically not dunking anymore, not being aggressive. We'll see if that can continue for him, and we'll see if that continues for him, if that regular play. And now Chicago's looking real shaky here because now Vucevic hasn't had the best season, hasn't played the best. They got to win tonight against the Bucks, I believe. DeRozan had a really, really big game. But it's going to be those type of performances until this team figures out if they can get Lonzo back, if that defense can get back to a certain level, and what is the level of Zach LaVine next to DeMar DeRozan, because DeMar DeRozan has taken that 1A role. And is Zach LaVine going to be consistent again? I think he's averaging 21 on the season, but they need him to score more, kind of on that Jaylen Brown level, and really get that going for Chicago to be. They are on a 2-game winning streak, so that's something to pay attention to. That maybe things are turning around for their offense. But their point guard situation, Musu, I have him on my fantasy team. Can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry. He's been solid so far. Goran Dragic has been able to play okay so far for them. But that point guard situation, Kobe White knocked down some threes tonight too. So that was a huge plus for them. And they've been looking to trade him, but it's like they actually kind of need him right now and see if they can use him. I don't know what situation they're going to go forward with, but we'll see what happens with Chicago. Miami has been battling injuries. Jimmy Butler has been out the past couple of games. But Kyle Lowry finally made an appearance and had a pretty big game tonight. I think he had 28 points against Portland without Dame. But Miami's going to be Miami. If they're healthy, they're going to be good. If not, they're going to be struggling. They're 4-6 in their last 10. What is this? On the road, they're 1-7. Woo! That's probably why their record's so bad. But yeah, Miami, if they're healthy, they're going to be good. But if not, they're going to struggle like we see how they are right now. Orlando, who had a great start with Paulo Banchero. This is right where we think they're going to be. They've been dropping some games. It's like they're going to be who they are. But Bol has been playing amazing. I think he's been a 20-10 guy over the last, I want to say 5 games or so. He's playing really, really well, and people are really seeing his potential there, able to grow in Orlando and play really big minutes down there. He was drafted by the Heat, traded to the Nuggets, never really got a chance out there. I believe he was on the Celtics for like a second. And then he ends up on Orlando, and he's able to play well down there. Good for him to have that production for Orlando and really spread the floor and shoot like that, and awesome for Bol, to see a guy who, son of Manute Bol, who I saw as a kid and stuff like that, to see him come in, get reps and actually look healthy and look like a really good NBA player. That's awesome to see. Moving on to Charlotte, LaMelo Ball got hurt again I think about last week or so, again with the ankle injury on a fan, which was random. I don't know what to make of Charlotte. I thought if they can figure out their big man situation, they would be better. But it's like with that whole Miles Bridges situation in the offseason, they should just tank. I said it before. They should just blow up everything and just try to get Victor Wembanyama. I believe they own their pick. And really try to get somebody that you can compare next to LaMelo, who's going to be able to be a nice pick and roll, pick and pop situation, hit lobs and stuff like that, and really get something offensively going. But I don't know what the Hornets are doing. Detroit has been disappointing, although they have won 2 in a row. They beat Denver the other night, and they beat Utah tonight. So, I mean, I guess that's some type of positive vibes. Kate Cunningham is hurt, unfortunately. Um, I thought Detroit was going to be good enough to make the plan. It's still early, but it's like with injuries to Kate Cunningham, what direction they're going to go. Yeah, they've been disappointing so far. Moving on to the Western Conference, the Phoenix Suns, I've talked enough about them. We know what they are. I think if they can find a backup point guard, upgrade behind Cameron Payne, figure out what they're going to do with that Jay Crowder contract and see if they can bring somebody in there who can actually do something, the Suns are going to be good. Devin Booker is going to be great. Mikal Bridges is showing a tremendous potential to his career where it can go offensively. Really knocking down the three to become a perennial 3-and-D guy for the Phoenix Suns, and able to do it at that clip is very impressive. Again, it's just I think the X factor is DeAndre Ayton. He has to be able to get 20 points. He has to be able to push himself to be aggressive, be a physical impact force, block shots, et cetera, everything that this team basically needs, and basically what we've been thinking and what we've been clamoring for him to be for the Phoenix Suns. And that's the X factor for them. They're going to be good because they're the Suns. They're led by Devin Booker, Monty Williams, Chris Paul, et cetera, et cetera. Chris Paul has been out, but they have a know-how. They know how to do it. They know how to get there. They know how to win games. It's just if they can get over the top with DeAndre Ayton's play. Moving on to the Denver Nuggets. Of course, Nikola Jokic playing solid so far this season. Maybe his defense hasn't been there this season, but they pulled out a tough game against OKC tonight. I believe him and Aaron Gordon both had 30, which is, I think, the first time to get that much point production out of Aaron Gordon is a very positive sign. DeAndre Jordan has been playing well so far this season. It's just Jamal Murray, if they can get him clicking to be that guy, the blue arrow that we saw in the bubble or any version of that at any point in time. If he can be that, that would be a very good sign for the Denver Nuggets, in a very good sign, a good green light in the right direction for them. Michael Porter Jr. is playing all right. Bones Highland, I think he got hurt the other night, but let's see if he can continue to be good. Bruce Brown has been fantastic for them. KCP has been fantastic for them. I think that will continue. I think Denver is going to be one of the best teams in the Western Conference. I think they can be the 1 seed if they can just get things going with Jamal Murray and that offense. Moving on to the New Orleans Pelicans, Zion is going to be a beast. It just depends on what version of Zion they're going to get. Are they going to get the aggressive version of Zion, who is a bounce and efficient and available every night? I think that's the main question there. You know, CJ and BI is going to do their thing. Herb Jones is going to step up. We'll see what the Pelicans are. Of course, it all depends on if Zion is healthy. Moving on to the Utah Jazz, who were first in the Western Conference last week, have slid down to the 4th seed this week. I think Jordan Clarkson sent out some tweet that, hey, we're not going to go 79-3 or something like that. And since then, they have been losing games so far in the season. But Utah's Utah. Lauri Markkanen, I call him Tom Chambers. Tom Chambers 2.0 of this era. He's dunking on people. He's shooting the ball. He's playing fantastic. Jordan Clarkson's playing fantastic, passing the ball. Malik Beasley's stepping up for them so far this season as well. And we'll see if Utah can continue, if they're going to be able to stay afloat, or they're going to be able to fall, or they're going to fall. This is a team that everyone said should be tanking, should figure out a way to tank, but Will Hardy and Danny Ainge put this team together. And apparently they're playing they're playing great so far. A lot of injuries to teams in the Western Conference. So it's like these teams that are up here now, such as Utah, and as I talk about Sacramento in a minute, Indiana and the East, these teams have to take advantage of these teams being hurt to get these easy wins, push their records up, so that if they're in position, even if they fall a little bit, that they're still in position to make the playoffs or play in. And I think Utah is going to be capable of that so far this season. Moving on to the Sacramento Kings. I talked about the Sacramento Kings earlier in the other video. But Sacramento, I just like what they're doing. Mike Brown has been a big plus for them. Um, I believe, and he's been vilified in other stops. Cleveland, he didn't get a lot of credit. The second stint in Cleveland was a disaster. Going to LA, trying to run the Pistons offense and all this other stuff, didn't end well there. So to see him go to Sacramento, a small market, kind of a project for him and project for the Kings and stuff like that, and to turn that around and have some type of success or some type of glimmer of hope for Sacramento, who has a great fan base. Um, it's a good thing for the league and a good thing for Sacramento, most importantly. But Mike Brown, De'Aaron Fox, DeMontis Sabonis, Keegan Murray, seems like they're heading in a positive trending direction for that franchise so far. And let's be happy for Sacramento. I mean, 8-2 over the last 10. They won 7 in a row before dropping the game tonight to Detroit. So good things for Sacramento. Let's keep it going. The LA Clippers, I picked them to be in the finals, and right now it's looking dead wrong. Right now, Paul George is hurt. Kawhi Leonard is out. And it's just the same thing with the LA Clippers. It's kind of similar to the Brooklyn Nets. We've been waiting for these teams to be good at some point for the past 4 years. And so far, the Clippers have made the playoffs. They've been solid. They got to the Western Conference Finals in the 2021. I keep thinking the bubble, but no, 2021 playoff. And it's just like Kawhi wasn't there. Would that series have been different? You just keep thinking they keep losing time with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being out. Doesn't matter if it's a knick-knack injury in the back in a game or two or whatever the case would be. It's just the same old Clippers as the same old Nets, the same old Lakers, just the same old shit going on with the Clippers. And Ramona Shelburne reported that Kawhi Leonard bulked up over the season. Of course, that's what everyone sees Kawhi Leonard. His quads are huge as hell. And they said he didn't play a lot of pickup, and that's why he was huge in the offseason. It's like, man, you got to play pickup. You got to hoop, man. He's doing a lot of individual drills and stuff like that. And it's like, man, you got to – it sucks because we just saw this last year with Anthony Davis, right? So we saw him bulk up, be slow, be a little too heavy for his body. And we saw that last year, how that affected Anthony Davis. If that's affecting Kawhi, who has already missed, 4 seasons so far? As an NBA player, it's like you got to figure out a way to have your body balanced so you're not being too top heavy, you're not too light heavy, not to draw contact, to have strength in your legs and your body and stuff like that. But that's very unfortunate. It's like, damn, can the Clippers ever catch a break? It's like they're cursed or something. Donald Sterling went out into the woods and did some voodoo and messed up the Clippers, but it's like, man, they just can't get right. Moving on to the Memphis Grizzlies, they have been in and out with injuries. Desmond Bane is out for a month. Ja Morant just came back, I believe, from an ankle sprain. Jaren Jackson Jr. has come back as well. It's just like, can this team get back up and running how they were to start the season and finish off like how they did last season? Ja Morant has been phenomenal. How he creates and finishes at the basket, reminiscent of Derrick Rose. His ability to dunk and play over the top. Can't say enough about this team. Desmond Bane has been hugely missed from a three-point perspective. They're relying a little bit too much on Dillon Brooks. But we'll see what Memphis does when they're healthy and running on all cylinders. Moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have been on a 5-game winning streak. Woo! I believe they beat Indiana tonight. I think 105, 101, 100, something like that. This team has had a little bit of turmoil between Cat and Anthony Edwards and being in shape and stuff. Hopefully this team's holding each other accountable because they should be one of the better teams in the league, but especially with Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, you got to see what you get out of those guys and see if they can play on the floor together, see if they can stay on the floor together, see if there's a potential any move with D'Angelo Russell, moving him, getting a pure point guard in there to help things. Would be interesting. But yeah, we'll see what Minnesota is because people have been waiting on them to be good, waiting on them to pan out and be dominant. And we'll see what they do. They're on a 5-game winning streak right now. Moving on to the Portland Trailblazers, somebody said Shaden Sharp reminds them of a young Kobe Bryant, and I'm like, that's crazy. But let's see. He has the athleticism. Let's see if he can get the shot making down and progress over his career, and let's see what he'd be next to Dame. Dame has been out. I don't necessarily remember the injury, but he has been out, and they dropped the game tonight. But Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, all these guys have been playing well for Portland. And they were 1 last week, and now they're 9th. That's how close the West is right now. But Portland has some positive signs there, and we'll see what they can. We'll see what they can be going forward. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, I had the Dallas Mavericks finishing 8th. They dropped tonight, 125 to 112 against the Boston Celtics, and I call Luka Doncic Euro James Harden. That's not a shot. He's that good offensively that he can run an offense like that and basically have it on his shoulders. But at some point, people are talking about they're worried about him leaving. And I've said this before. Mark Cuban has not built a good roster in a sense since the championship team in 2011. Where he put together this championship roster and then didn't maintain it, didn't upkeep it, and it kind of faded away, especially not keeping Tyson Chandler. But continuing, it's like since then, he has really not been able to put together a roster that seems like they're on a contender status, you know what I mean? And really helped Luka so far in his season. They lost Jalen Brunson on a technicality on some low ball offer that's like, who is in your management or who is in your draft or who is in your signing free agents? Who is directing things for this franchise? Because it's like Luka Doncic definitely needs help. And I said it to somebody, I'm like, they should probably trade for a Miles Turner or Buddy Hield just to get some offensive production, some defense, some rim protection. But when you got guys that aren't really helping him, aren't really producing, and I think that's going to change once. I think there's push comes to shove that Christian Wood's going to be in the starting lineup. Yes, he does get lost defensively, but at some point you need to be able to help Luka out offensively, and really take some pressure off of him and get a guy that can finish around the hoop, that can spread the floor. Had a couple nice times tonight in the Celtics game when they ran pick and roll and he got easy dunks to the basket. And it's like, why aren't we keeping that? Why aren't we playing that more on the floor? Why aren't we doing that more over the course of the game? And I think it's just a little way of breaking Christian Wood in, especially trying to get him to keep up defensively. But offensively, they're going to need Christian Wood on the floor at some point as a starter, playing big-time minutes with Luka Doncic and see what they are. Moving on to Golden State. What is there to say about Golden State? We'll see what they are. If they're going to wake up. I think it's a championship hangover, the way they've been playing on the road, the way they've been playing of late. They got a big one in Houston, especially for Klay Thompson to gain his confidence back and see that ball going as many times as he did that night. But, yeah, Golden State is Golden State. We'll see what they're going to be down the line. And, of course, the questions there were Kuminga, Wiseman, and Moody. What are they going to do with those contracts? Are they going to move them? Are they going to bring somebody in? What are they going to do? And everyone's worried. And I'm like, this is the Golden State Warriors who have been to the finals, what? 6 times and has won, 4 championships? And it's like, why are we crying for them? They'll figure it out. They're the Golden State Warriors. They have one of the best players, top, 15 player in the world in Steph Curry. One of the best rotation guys in the league. One of the best role players in the league. Draymond Green, Jordan Poole, who you just gave a whole big contract to. They got to figure it out in terms of what they're going to do to hide them defensively. And it's like, you guys, they'll be all right. I'm tired of people crying about for the Warriors. They'll be all right. Moving on to the Oklahoma City Thunder, SGA, Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, he is an MVP candidate and playing really, really well. Of course, he's not going to get it, but I believe he deserves some consideration. I believe he's averaging 36 and 5 on the season with OKC. Josh Giddey's playing well. He's on my fantasy team. And they're just getting a lot of effort and production out of these young guys that are playing dividends for the Thunder so far. Moving on to the San Antonio Spurs, not really much there. Of course, the Spurs are one of the most boring teams in the league. You got Keldon Johnson. You got the guy number 10, the French dude. I call him Dennis. I call him Dennis Rodman because he got number 10 in the funny hair. But Russell Westbrook threw the ball off his face a couple nights ago. But San Antonio, Keldon Johnson, we'll see what they're doing. Moving on to the Los Angeles Lakers, we know what they are. We'll see what happens when LeBron gets back, if guys are able to knock down shots, if they're able to put anything together. Just the same old story. And the Houston Rockets, I haven't really been paying attention to them. I know Jabari Smith Jr. is struggling a little bit so far to start the season. But Jaylen Brown, Jalen Green, and Kevin Porter Jr. Are trying to lead that charge down there, and they're not very good. They're the worst team in the league, the Houston Rockets. And basically, they're just going to be who they are. That concludes my around the hub of the NBA. I wish I had more, and I wish I was awake more a little bit for this. But hey, around this team, around the NBA, a lot of things going around the league here. Hopefully, I can get some things wrapped up for next week as the quarter mark of the NBA season comes into fruition, and I'll talk about that.